Nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, was supposed to understand what was really happening the moment Caitlin Clark showed up courtside at a Lakers-Pacers game with a professional camera in her hand, branded gear at her side, and the kind of sideline access that ordinary fans, casual influencers, and even hungry media hopefuls can only dream about. On the surface, it looked fun. Harmless. Cute, even. The internet saw a superstar rookie-turned-photographer and instantly did what the internet always does. It turned a subtle power move into a viral meme. But that is exactly why so many people completely missed the point. Because this was never just about a camera. It was never just about Caitlin Clark taking pictures for fun. It was never just an off-season moment designed to fill a social media feed. This was a message. A loud one. A deliberate one. A strategic one. And if you really understand sports business, brand building, cultural momentum, and the future of women's basketball, then you know this was one of the most revealing things any organization has done in the past year. The Indiana Pacers didn't just let Caitlin Clark sit near the baseline. They didn't just invite her to a game. They elevated her. They framed her like she belonged in the center of the action, not on the edges of it. They treated her like a pillar of the basketball identity of the city. And in doing so, they exposed every single NBA franchise that keeps pretending to support women's basketball while still treating its WNBA counterpart like a side project, a seasonal obligation, or a PR checkbox. That's what makes this so much bigger than people realize. Because while everybody else was laughing, reposting, and saying, "Wow, this is cool," Indiana was quietly showing the entire sports world how the game is actually won off the court. Look closely at the optics. Look at the symbolism. Look at the access. Look at the rollout. This wasn't random. This wasn't accidental. This was organizational intelligence. This was brand architecture. This was a franchise saying, "We understand exactly what we have, and we're not going to wait for the rest of the world to catch up before we start acting like it." And that matters because Caitlin Clark is not just a player anymore. She is not just a rookie. She is not just a name on a jersey or a highlight machine or a headline generator. She is a sports property. She is a cultural magnet. She is an audience mover. She is a ticket machine. She is a media event. And Indiana is one of the first organizations in basketball to stop pretending otherwise. Think about how absurdly rare it is for a WNBA player, yes, even a star, to become one of the most talked about figures at an NBA game featuring LeBron James, Luka Doncic level attention, and one of the most globally recognizable franchises in sports. That doesn't happen by accident. That doesn't happen because someone just thought, "Hey, let's give Caitlin a camera and see what happens." No. That happens because there are people inside the building who understand that modern sports isn't only about points, rebounds, and assists. It's about narrative ownership. It's about emotional relevance. It's about keeping your stars in the bloodstream of public attention even when they're not in uniform. It's about making sure your audience never has a chance to forget who matters in your ecosystem. And Indiana, whether people want to admit it or not, is absolutely crushing that game right now. While other teams are still posting generic graphics and recycled support women's sports slogans like they deserve applause for the bare minimum, Indiana is building an actual integrated basketball culture. A real one. One where the Pacers and the Fever don't feel like two separate businesses awkwardly sharing a zip code and a front office address. They feel connected. They feel aligned. They feel like different wings of the same machine. And that is the difference. That is the secret. That is the blueprint everybody else keeps failing to copy because most organizations still do not truly believe their women's team deserves equal creative energy, equal strategic attention, equal promotional force, and equal cultural investment. They'll say the right words in interviews. They'll throw up a Women's History Month graphic. They'll wear a shirt during warm-ups. They'll post a good luck tweet. And then they'll go right back to treating the WNBA side like background noise. Indiana? Indiana is doing the opposite. Indiana is saying, if Caitlin Clark is one of the most magnetic stars in American sports, then why would we market her like she's an afterthought? Why would we hide that? Why would we shrink that? Why would we keep that in a box? Why wouldn't we put her on the baseline at an NBA game and let the entire sports internet understand, in one image, that she belongs in the center of basketball culture, not at the margins of it? That's why this hit so hard. Because it wasn't just visually cool. It was psychologically dominant. It sent a message to fans, to media, to brands, to players, to sponsors, and to every lazy executive in every other city still running outdated playbooks. This is what it looks like when an organization actually knows how to capitalize on a superstar. And let's be brutally honest here. This only feels surprising because the sports world has been conditioned for years to expect less from how women's basketball stars are treated. That's the ugly truth underneath all of this. People reacted like this was groundbreaking because, sadly, it kind of was. It shouldn't be revolutionary for one of the biggest names in basketball to be woven into the identity of a major basketball market. It shouldn't feel shocking for a WNBA star to receive this kind of access, visibility, and institutional embrace. But because the standard has been so embarrassingly low for so long, one smart move from Indiana suddenly looks like a masterclass. And frankly, it is. Because this wasn't just about optics for one night, it's about what those optics represent. They represent trust. They represent respect. They represent organizational confidence. They represent the idea that Caitlin Clark isn't just good for the Fever, she's good for the entire basketball economy of Indiana. She's good for the Pacers. She's good for the city. She's good for the arena. She's good for social reach, merchandise, energy, relevance, youth engagement, cross-market visibility, and long-term fan conversion. And if you can't understand that by now, then you are already behind. The smartest part of this whole thing is that it wasn't loud in the way bad PR is loud. It wasn't forced. It wasn't desperate. It wasn't one of those painfully obvious corporate stunts where you can practically hear the boardroom brainstorming through the screen. It felt natural because Indiana has been laying the foundation for this kind of crossover all along. Pacers players showing up to Fever games. Fever stars existing in the same public ecosystem. Shared fan investment. Shared arena energy. Shared identity. Shared basketball pride. That doesn't happen overnight. That happens when ownership and leadership stop viewing one team as the main product and the other as nice to have. And that is why Indiana stands out so violently compared to so many other organizations. They are not perfect, far from it, but they understand the one thing everyone else keeps fumbling. If you want your WNBA team to feel important, you have to act like they are important before the rest of the world gives you permission. You have to lead the audience, not follow it. You have to create gravity, not wait for it. And right now, Caitlin Clark is gravity. She pulls attention. She bends conversation. She changes the economics of whatever room she walks into. Indiana knows that. The Pacers know that. Their digital teams know that. Their players know that. Their fans definitely know that. And the organizations still dragging their feet around the league should be embarrassed that they needed a courtside camera moment to finally see what has been right in front of them the entire time. Women's basketball stars do not need pity marketing. They need real infrastructure, real confidence, real integration, and real imagination. Indiana is showing what happens when a franchise finally stops playing small with a massive opportunity. And that's where this whole story stops being a viral off-season moment and starts becoming a brutal indictment of how badly most franchises still misunderstand the future of basketball. Because once you strip away the aesthetics, once you get past the photos and the social buzz and the novelty of seeing Caitlin Clark on the baseline instead of on the hardwood, what you're left